Good evening. You're watching the main news on HKIBC. I'm Sarah Wong. Here's a look at tonight's top stories. Chief Executive says anyone with common sense knows Hong Kong's COVID infections are higher than the official tally. Shanghai has been ordered to lock down for 9 days, forcing 26 million residents to stay at home.
Oh, wow!
And drama in Hollywood as Will Smith goes on stage to smack Oscars host who made a joke about the actor's wife. The chief executive said it is possible that 1 in 4 Hong Kong citizens have been infected with COVID. Carrie Lam's deduction was based on exemptions granted to residents under lockdowns because they have recently recovered from the virus. Joanna Ho reports.
More than 1.1 million people in Hong Kong have contracted COVID, according to the official tally maintained by the government. But the chief executive said anyone with common sense should know the actual figure was likely to be much higher. Using a recent lockdown at Kwong Fuk Estate as an example, Carrie Lam estimated around 1 in 4, or 1.8 million Hong Kongers have been infected. This would reflect patients who either never came forward or were exempt from mandatory testing during lockdowns. But even that was a long way off from the 4 million infections suggested by a Hong Kong university study. Speaking on radio this morning, Professor Ivan Hong said this discrepancy would skew the death rate, which currently stands at 0.64%. But if the denominator is raised to 4 million, the death rate would drastically reduce to 0.18%. Responding to the idea, Lam agreed a revision was necessary, but asked for more time to arrive at a final figure.
The numerator will be the same, will be 7,000 deaths, but the denominator, whether it's 1 million, 2 million, 3 million, or 4 million, will make a lot of difference. But at the time, for the time being, we will not move to that immediate adjustment. Otherwise, it will cause confusion.
Lam also called on residents subject to building lockdowns to be cooperative. After 16,700 households did not answer the door during 287 operations in the 5th wave, another 2,800 people were fined for failing to produce a test result when the lockdown was over. On a separate note, more than 70 million rapid antigen test kits will be dished out to 2.7 million households in the coming week. Lam added she was pleased to see that very few positive declarations made through an online platform were deemed questionable. Joanna Ho, HKIBC.
COVID infections in the city continue to fall, with daily cases dropping below 8,000 for the first time in more than a month. But health officials called for caution ahead of the Qingming festival, when people are expected to go grave sweeping in droves. Macy Mock reports.
Hong Kong's daily COVID cases has dropped to 7,685, extending a streak of 4-digit upticks to 3 days. Over half of the new patients were detected through self-administered rapid antigen tests, while there were 5 imported infections. The Center for Health Protection is also alarmed by next Tuesday's Qingming festival, when families observe the tradition of sweeping their ancestors' graves. Head of the Communicable Disease Branch, Chuang Shuk Kun, said this may cause a rebound in the declining cases. But she said going to countryside with lesser people is still better than gathering at confined spaces like shopping malls. The city's 5th wave death toll has climbed to 7,207, including 143 people who passed away in the past day. 5 of the younger fatalities were in their 50s. Hospital Authority Chief Manager Sarah Ho explained they all suffered from long-term illnesses or cancer, which could easily trigger severe complications when coupled with COVID. Maisie Mock, HKIBC.
The megacity of Shanghai has been placed under lockdown in a bid to stamp out the Omicron variant. It is the largest lockdown of its kind on the mainland, covering 26 million residents, although the operation will be conducted in 2 phases over 9 days. Chloe Feng has more details.
In a U-turn from its previous reluctance to lock down the financial hub, Shanghai officials finally deployed the drastic measure commonly used in other smaller cities across China. While the city of 26 million people registered only 50 new infections, asymptomatic cases rose to a record 3,450. The government has been under pressure for failing to keep the virus at bay, causing infections to spread to neighboring cities. A 9-day lockdown has been imposed in phases starting this morning. Pudong New area on the eastern bank of the Huangpu River, along with nearby districts, will go into 4 days of lockdown. After that, Puxi on the western bank of Huangpu River will be sealed off for 5 days. Residents will need to stay at home except when they go for tests, and all public transport will be suspended.
晚上大家都接到通知，可能要分4天，全部出来排队买菜了。
Residents rushed to stock up on daily necessities before supermarkets shut at midnight last night. Fights even broke out between customers, snapping up whatever was left on the shelves. The local government, meanwhile, has been accused of differential treatment. This came after some migrant workers complained they did not receive food supplies, which were sent to local residents. Other residents also bemoaned the lockdown, saying they will be unable to sweep the ancestors' graves on Qingming Festival next week. Market watchers are also studying how the lockdown will impact the economy. The city is home to many key factories, such as Tesla's vehicle assembly line and SMIC, the country's largest chip maker. Across the nation, there were another 1,219 confirmed cases, most of which in northeastern Jilin province. Chloe Feng, HKIBC.
In other news, there will be no fare hikes for the MTR Corporation for the 3rd year in a row. But a lawmaker warned that the upward adjustment is merely rolled over to the following year and called for the unhealthy mechanism to be rectified. Joanna Ho has more.
In a relief for commuters, the MTR Corporation announced that it will freeze fares for another year. Under a fare adjustment mechanism, ticket prices are decided by a basket of factors such as inflation and wages for transportation workers. A special deduction of 0.6 percentage points is also applied under a 2017 agreement between the MTR and the government. Using the formula, the firm is entitled to a fare hike of 0.5% this year. But since that was below the 1.5% threshold needed to trigger an increase, fares will stay frozen. But lawmaker and former KCR boss Michael Tian warned that the devil is in the details, as the increment will be rolled over to the subsequent year.
In a nutshell, what I'm trying to say is whatever they're doing now is just going to keep on delaying the increase. And it seems like the citizens of Hong Kong will owe MTR always some kind of percentage increase for years to come. And I think that is very unhealthy. So I am proposing that next year we have a thorough review of public transport fare structure to hopefully seek consensus among Hong Kong citizens and government and the transport operators to have a fare increase every year capped at half of inflation rate.
The accumulated suspended increment has now snowballed to 3.35%, which could kick in next year, on top of the amount derived from the formula. Joanna Ho, HKIBC.
Overseas, Hopes of peace in Ukraine have rekindled after President Volodymyr Zelensky said he is ready to discuss a key demand of Russia. But ordinary civilians continue to bear the brunt of the war that has entered its second month. Devastation befall Ukraine's second-largest city, Kharkiv, which is reeling from another day of Russian bombardment. The city's council building remains standing, but maybe not for long, as seen by the damage it already sustained. Rescuers scoured the debris with bare hands looking for people, dead or alive, as misery continues to mount in the month-old war. This village west of capital Kyiv is one of many towns decimated by the Russian bombing. Even the kindergarten failed to escape from hostile fire. The ruins left a head teacher in tears. Some analysts believe Russian forces are turning their focus on southern Ukraine, but there remains prospects of peace ahead of negotiations in Turkey. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky told a group of independent Russian journalists that Kyiv is willing to consider not joining NATO. That demand has fueled the belligerence of Moscow, which is wary of the former Soviet republic's ascension to the European Union. But Zelensky insisted that the matter should be put to all Ukrainians in a referendum after Russian troops withdraw, with third parties guaranteeing the process. The United Nations estimated that more than 1,100 civilians have died in the conflict so far, with another 10 million displaced. Moscow has been accused of forcibly moving thousands of residents in the surrounded city of Mariupol to Russia and areas under its control. Russia denied any coercion, but admitted offering escorts in evacuation operations. There were predictable but historic wins at the glittering Oscars ceremony last night. But all of that was overshadowed by an awkward onstage punch against comedian Chris Rock from Will Smith, who won Best Actor just moments later. Wong reports.
Jada, I love you. G.I. Jane 2, can't wait to see it. All right? I'm out here. Richard. Oh, wow. Wow. Will Smith just smacked the out of me.
Keep my wife's name out your mouth.
Wow, dude.
Yes.
It was a G.I. Jane joke.
Keep my wife's name out your mouth.
It was the night's most memorable moment, and not in a good way. After Chris Rock made a joke about Jada Pinkett Smith's hair, this was her spouse Will Smith's response. Moments before, the actress, who's been open about her struggles with alopecia, seemed visibly annoyed. Will Smith returned to the stage shortly afterwards, when he was named winner of this year's Academy Award for Best Actor for his performance in King Richard. It's his first ever Oscar in a nearly 4 decades-long career. In a tearful acceptance speech, Smith apologized to the Academy and fellow nominees, adding that he understood taking abuse was all part of the business. The bizarre incident set social media ablaze, with some questioning whether it was staged, while others demanded Smith return his trophy for violating the Academy's code of conduct. Meanwhile, Best Actress went to Jessica Chastain for her performance in The Eyes of Tammy Faye. Her portrayal of Tammy Faye Baker, wife of the controversial American televangelist Jim Baker, showed the character's struggles with marriage and activism for LGBTQ+ rights. Apple's Coda, a film about a girl with 2 deaf parents, won Best Picture. It was the first production by a streaming service to take home the prestigious award. Troy Kotsur also won Best Supporting Actor for his portrayal of Frank Rossi in the movie. Dune was also a big winner. The science fiction epic based on Frank Herbert's novel swept 6 of the 10 categories it was nominated for, including Best Cinematography, Original Score, and Visual Effects. Wong, HKIBC.
On to the weather now. Keep your umbrellas handy as tomorrow will be cloudy with a few showers and squally thunderstorms. Temperatures range between 17 and 21 degrees. Wednesday and Thursday will be sunny during the day with misty mornings. Now let's take a look at the weather around the world. That's our main news for Monday night. Join us for more news at 11. I'm Sarah Wong. Thanks for watching. Good night.